Hi and welcome everyone to 5 things that I liked and didn't like about my cruise with Princess Cruises. So basically in August last summer, me and my friend The Rose went on my first ever cruise with Princess Cruises. Something that I've been dreaming about for my entire life, more or less. I've always been interested in cruising, and finally this summer I had the opportunity to start my first ever cruise experience. Something that I'm obviously now gonna do more and more and more. So I hope that you will follow this channel in the future for much more cruise related content in forms of vlogs and cruise news and all things cruise related. This is something that I'm so excited to continue my journey on. We went on a 4-night cruise sampler this August from Southampton to Rotterdam and Guersey with Enchanted Princess. And I'm gonna list 5 things that I didn't like about the cruise and 5 things that I loved about this cruise. And I have to say before we start that this is my personal opinions and also that they are connected to this specific cruise. So what I'm saying here is not a general view that I have of Princess, just what we experienced on our cruise. I think that we're gonna start this show by talking about the 5 things I didn't like and then save the 5 things that I really liked to the end of the show. So in 5th place we find the specialty restaurant Bistro. And why is that? Well, first of all, we were so disappointed with the food. It didn't at all live up to expectations. When you are paying a specialty restaurant, you expect it to be really good. And what I've read about this whole idea with a French famous chef being behind the whole concept, serving like French bistro kind of food, we had really high expectations going in on the first night of our cruise to try this. We started off by getting some appetizers, which was okay, I guess. After a while, the first course arrived, which in my case was a pâté and in my friend's case a lobster bisque. I'm gonna say that the pâté was kind of nice. It was nothing special about it, but it was presented in a quite good way. The taste was okay. However, my friend's lobster bisque was really so-so. He said that it lacked in taste and that there was nothing special about it. We then received our main and I went for scallops. It was served with some kind of risotto and some cooked vegetables. I'm gonna say that it was pretty okay, but it still didn't really taste anything, and I had to use pepper and salt, which is not a good thing when you visit a really good restaurant, because it was kind of tasteless. However, this is what my biggest concern, that the main that my friend ordered, which was kind of like a filet mignon with a red white sauce, was a disaster. Both from the presentation but also the way it tasted. The texture of the meat wasn't very nice, the taste itself, I mean, we had tons of better steaks. I also had the opportunity to taste it and I can assure that it was far from a good main dish. Finally, the dessert menu, we ordered 2 separate things. I don't even remember the name. There was like a mousse, which kind of was like a lemon mousse kind of thing, and then we went with something that was basically a bread roll with some apple. None of the desserts we could even finish. It was, I'm gonna say it here, disgusting. And we left the restaurant being very disappointed for paying the price. I'm gonna talk about the food a little bit later in the positive thing, but I can tell you that the food we had in the main dining room was much better than this one. We would like to thank you so much for watching our content. We really put our hearts into making it, so it would mean the world to us if you hit that subscribe button, as well as to tell the YouTube algorithm to show us to more people by commenting on our videos, as well as to hit that bell button. We make all sorts of travel-related content such as alternative, in-depth city guides, travel vlogs, as well as cruise and travel tips. At number 4 over the things that I didn't like about cruising with Enchanted Princess is the Wi-Fi. So when you book a cruise with Princess Cruises nowadays, you have the kind of all-included things. So in your cruise, the tip is included, as well as the Wi-Fi, the drinkings package. This means that you have more or less Wi-Fi included in the price. However, on this cruise particular, I don't have a clue if it's better now, the Wi-Fi didn't exist at all. I was visiting the internet cafe and the internet manager throughout the cruise, but they couldn't help me at all. And they couldn't help anyone because the Wi-Fi was not working. And because of this, the app wasn't working either, so it was impossible to book, say, restaurants through your telephone or order things because there was no Wi-Fi. I mean, I guess that they have fixed this problem since then, but however, this segment is about our cruise on Princess, and at that time there was no Wi-Fi whatsoever. Obviously, if we had paid for the Wi-Fi, I would go mad. Now it was kind of included in the price, but still there was no Wi-Fi, so there was nothing included in the price, if you get what I mean. At number 3 is something that is not, from what I've heard, so much a Princess problem. I'm gonna say the cocktails on board, but I want to state clearly that this is not something that in general has to be bad for Princess Cruises, and it's more something that, from what I've seen now, is a cruise related problem. The thing is that you get the drinking package, so cocktails are included in your voyage. So generally, I think that I had an idea before cruising with Princess that on board this cruise, like the cocktails would be very nice. My friend, however, who has been on several cruises before, told me that this is a general problem on board all the cruise lines, so this is not a Princess related problem. It's just that I was so disappointed, like the time when we ordered a Bloody Mary to the room and we got this kind of thing which was undrinkable. I mean, where is even the celery? Don't you even serve a Bloody Mary with celery? They put 2 olives in it instead. And this is actually something that continued throughout the cruise. When we ordered a whiskey sour, we got it in a highball glass with ice sometime. We got Lynchburg lemonade, not at all tasting like a Lynchburg lemonade. So most of the times we got variations of drinks. So more or less they looked up how to make it, but made it in a completely different way, in the wrong kinds of glasses. So this actually took the whole cocktail experience away from me totally. So that ended up in me drinking beer most of the time. There were, however, 2 specific bars that was focusing on cocktails. One is the Good Spirits at Sea, which they have a collaboration with some famous bartenders on, and supposedly they do very good cocktails there, but only between a certain amount of time, and we didn't actually have the opportunity to try the cocktails at that specific time. Then throughout the night they put their normal bartenders in this bar throughout the night, and they make, well, the same standard cocktails that you would get anywhere. Also in the Jazz Club Take 5 they had a special cocktail menu which was really good, and the bartenders there were some of the best, I would say, on board the ship. I had one with jalapeno which was very good, but still, I mean, how hard is it? Like the famous cocktails especially, they're made from traditional recipes. If you only know how to make them, you can't fail making them. You have the spirits, you know how to do it, it's gonna taste the same as it should. And still, they couldn't do it. And this was a complete surprise to me. At number 2, I'm gonna talk about the Princess app. You see, as soon as I booked the cruise, you were supposed to be logging into your app, and through the app you could, ahead of your cruise, make all sorts of reservations, like book spa, book the specialty restaurants, and everything that you wanted to do. However, I couldn't get the app to work at all. And I was in contact with Princess Cruises in Germany, which is the closest office to where I live here in Sweden, and they couldn't help me either for some reason. They were trying to log into my account, trying to help me make reservations, but Princess Cruises wouldn't allow even the agents at Princess in Germany to do reservations in my name, which ended up in the fact that when we arrived on board, I only was able to make one reservation in ahead, which was in Bistro Sölemir. Then I was fortunately enough to make a reservation in Sabatini's, but the Crown Grill, which we really wanted to dine at, was sold out. And I knew it was going to be sold out. That's why I wanted to pre-book it in advance, which I couldn't. They could help me out in the end to book my spa experience, but I was left with the fact that I couldn't make any reservations, any excursions, anything ahead of my journey. When we finally came on board the ship, it was too late and most things were sold out. And the number one thing that I didn't like about my cruise with Princess has to be the check-in and boarding in Southampton, which was just a complete disaster. I'm not going to talk too much about this. I don't know if this is a occurring problem that they always have, or if this was for some reason unlucky through my cruise, but nothing worked and people were furious in the terminal. They had boarding groups, but people was just getting on board anyway, and then the people who were waiting to get on board obviously got angry because they let other people on board who were supposed to wait longer, and it turned out to just be a mess. And we probably spent like 2.5 hours in that terminal before boarding, just because we listened to what the staff said and sat down and waited for our turn. And because of that, nothing happened. And I'm gonna say that that was probably the number one thing that I didn't like about my cruise with Princess. However, there were lots of things, not only 5, there were plenty of things that I just loved about cruising with Enchanted Princess. So I'm gonna stick out just right now before I even start and say that cruising with Princess is totally worth it, and I'll be happy to do it again anytime in the future. But here are my top 5 things that I loved about cruising with the Enchanted Princess. At number 5, we're gonna have to start with the piazza itself. I think that the concept of the piazza is just amazing. That you have this huge square for 3 floors where you more or less connected all the restaurants, the bars, the cafes. It's always something cool happening in the piazza, and it's just such an amazing place to spend your evenings, your afternoons with a drink in your hand, people watching, looking at any of the performances happening in the piazza. It's just such a vibrant place, and I love that idea. And I also got so happy when I had the information that now that they're building the new Sphere class ships, I think, that's coming up in next year, that they kept the piazza concept. In 4th place, it has to be all the food, both the included and the specialty one. I'm gonna start off by saying that what shocked me the most was probably the included food. Because when you look at all the cruise lines, which I really have, I've done my research before cruising, and I looked at all the cruise lines, I compared them to each other, I learned everything that there is to know about them, is that the included food can sometimes be, not maybe bad, but still just okay. And that when you take the leap to specialty restaurants, you take a huge leap, and that the food in the specialty restaurants are more or less world class. From the pizzas that you get outside on the pool deck to the international cafes serving these amazing sandwiches, pies, desserts throughout the day. They're open 24 hours and you can get your nightly snack, you can get your breakfast there, and it's really, really nice. We also had the opportunity to try afternoon tea in the main dining room, and it was also at a very high level, I would say. I'm gonna say that the specialty restaurants, we tried 3 of them, and one obviously we didn't like, the Bistro Sölemir. Sabatini's was very good, and the Ocean Terrace sushi place was also very good, but I am going to say that the step up to speciality wasn't as high as I expected. So with this being said, I think that if you are to cruise on a shorter cruise, say 4 days, you don't have to go with speciality dining. At number 3, I'm gonna go with the Lotus Spa. So basically, I booked a spa experience for my entire cruise, which meant that I had free entrance to the enclave on the Lotus Spa. And this spa is the most amazing one that I've ever been to. And believe me, I've been to a lot of spas. From the experience showers, to the wild pool, to all the saunas, to the relaxed atmosphere in there, and the staff as well in the spa. It was just a magical experience from the start to the end. If I'm ever to cruise with Princess again, the first thing I will do is to book my Lotus Spa experience ahead of my cruise. At number 2, we're going to talk about something that was the whole reason why we ended up choosing Princess Cruises, and that is the jazz club Take 5. You see, I'm a huge fan of jazz music, to sip a cocktail just listening to live jazz, and Princess is more or less the only cruise line that has a club dedicated to only jazz music. And boy, we were not disappointed. So throughout every night we ended in the Take 5 Jazz Club with live music. We enjoyed the drinks, the staff, the incredible Philip Lola's band that was playing on our voyage. Take 5 is the ultimate concept on board Princess, if you're a jazz fan obviously, and this is why it's at number 2 of the things that I loved about cruising with Princess. And finally, at number 1, the thing I liked most about my cruise with Enchanted Princess, it has to be the crew and the service. This might sound corny, but it's completely true. I have never in my entire life been treated in such an amazing way. And this is from all the staff on board the ship. With that being said, this has been the 5 things that I didn't like and the 5 things I really liked about cruising with Enchanted Princess. Also, I want to state that we have another cut of our vlog from the cruise coming up on this channel in a couple of weeks. So stay tuned, make sure that you hit that bell button, subscribe so you don't miss, and you will see our whole cruise, how it was as well. Thank you so much. Until next time, stay safe.